All right. Hi, everyone. Really sorry for the late start and the repetitiveness. Sorry, that was my sound in the background. We're 7 minutes late starting, so I will fly through some of the beginning announcements. Really sorry about the late start, some technical difficulties. It happens, but we are pushing through. So welcome to our webinar session today. I'm Meredith Douglas. I'm the Communications Director for HINGE Advisors. Really excited to introduce you all to Laurie, Denny, and Seth Lane, who will be running today's session, growing your business through Build to Suit. They did this session during the Shift conference in Park City. It was a big hit. Everyone loved the content. It's a new offering for HINGE as well, new-ish. Laurie started with the company in July of 2021, so it's about her 2-year anniversary. Happy anniversary, Laurie. And she brought us this service, which is great. Now we're offering it to childcare business owners. So they are going to talk a little bit about the process of Build to Suit, but I will introduce them in a minute. First, we're going to go through a few exciting announcements at HINGE. First, as many of you know, our 2023 Shift Childcare Leaders Conference has sold out for this year. We do still have a waiting list, so if you want to add yourself to the waiting list, you can. There's already a good number of people on the waiting list, but you never know if there's a chance that you might still attend. If other people can attend last minute and you can drive down to Charleston, South Carolina, you might get the opportunity. So definitely add your name to that list if you really want to come. We're really excited about this year's event. We have Tiffany Bova as our keynote speaker. She just released a book called The Experience Mindset, which she is providing to attendees for free, which is incredible. We also have some really great panels that we're excited about, including a staffing retention panel, which is always a big hit, a different childcare business models panel, so you can hear how different people run different models for their childcare business. We have someone who does public school partnerships. We have someone who has a swim school and childcare center. So there's some pretty cool people to hear from at this year's event. So if you're coming, we can't wait to see you. If you didn't make the registration cut, add yourself to the waiting list. You never know. Another cool thing that HINGE has been offering is financial coaching for early education owners. So I know many of you have probably heard about our online, our QuickBooks online training. There was one today, so you just missed the July one, but we will have one every single month. So the next one will be Tuesday, August 22nd. So if you want to sign up for that, I don't think the link is quite live for August sign up, but it should be live either later today. So you can go to hingeadvisors.com/financial coaching to sign up for that. It's a good little taster into our financial coaching and all of the knowledge that you can see pictured here. Christine Mailer, Stephanie Thompson, and Zach Mailer. These are our financial coaches. They're incredible. Everyone who's worked with them has raved about them. So if you just want to kind of see what they're about, I would recommend doing the QuickBooks online training. If you already know what they're about, if you met with them at Shift last year, or if you've heard recommendations from other owners, go ahead and reach out. They do free consultations. They can let you know all of the services they offer. They're fantastic. So definitely check out our financial coaching. Also, we have leadership sprints. Everyone's been trying to get in with Tom Wood. He has been busy since the beginning of the year, but some dates are finally opening up for him to be able to present with new groups this fall. Especially I think starting in September. He might have some openings in August, but these get packed up really quickly. So as you can see, here's a great testimonial from Jessica Johnson at Yellow Brick Road. Their group absolutely loved him, and he's loving doing it. He's loving getting involved with everyone's big groups. and doing leadership coaching. He does 8-week or 12-week courses. You get to choose the topics you want him to present to your team. It's been a very big hit. So if you want to learn more, definitely get in touch with Tom. Tom T. Wood at hingeadvisors.com is his email address. He would love to hear from you. The other cool thing that he's doing now is solo sprints. So if you run a smaller childcare business and maybe just you and your director, or just you want to do a sprint course, he's starting ones and on September 25th through November 13th with 12 participants. I'm assuming he's going to have to open this up to more because these are already filling up pretty quickly, but it'll be an 8-week course. You can see the topics for each week here. You can also learn more about these solo sprints on our website. They're $500 a person for an 8-week course. And you can learn more at hingeadvisors.com/leadership sprints. I think there might be 3 spaces left for this. We haven't marketed it a ton. I think we announced it in our newsletter. So if you want to get in, grab your space. He would love to have you. And also, as always, please follow us on social media. We have QR codes here for you to scan to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. A lot of people were complaining that they didn't know about Shift registration when it was going to open. We announce everything on our social media pages. So our QuickBooks online training, when to sign up for that, when leadership sprints open, everything is announced on social media. So you will never miss anything if you follow us there. So please, please do. And I think that is all from me. So if Laurie and Seth want to turn their video cameras on, say hello to everyone, unmute yourself, all the things, I will turn it over to these guys to introduce themselves. Thanks, guys.
Hi, thanks, Meredith. We are super excited to be here today, and thank you guys for joining us. I would like to take just one more second and introduce my very good friend and colleague, Seth Lane. Seth and I have worked together for many years in the development world. And when I came on board Hinge, spoke to Kathy about wanting to continue the build to suit process if my good friend here would do it alongside me. And he said yes, and here we are. So I'd like to formally introduce you to Seth Lane of Concept Companies.
Thanks, Laurie, and thanks to the whole Hinge team for inviting me to participate today. Looking forward to digging into this topic, and hopefully it could be helpful to everyone.
Thank you.
I was going to start with just an overview of kind of what build-to-suit is. And so at Concept Companies, we are a build-to-suit developer. So we do this every day for many different clients and many different types of industries. But essentially, build-to-suit is using a third party to develop a facility for you to your specifications, which you then lease back over a period of time. And so as a build-to-suit developer, when we have a client engagement, we will understand what that client needs, what their building type looks like. A lot of things we're going to talk about today. We will go find a piece of property. We will buy that property, build the building to the specifications of our client, and then lease it to that client for a period of time. The main advantage to build-to-suit versus building something on your own is that you get to use the capital it takes to build something, and you can spread that out over a longer period of time. So for example, if it costs you $5 million to buy a piece of property and construct a school, that $5 million could pay rent on many schools in many places over a period of time. So build-to-suit allows you to get access to outside capital and can really help your business scale over time and allow you to focus on the operations. Another good way to think about it, which we'll talk about today, is sort of like an outsourced real estate department that you can hire subject matter experts to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Meredith, can you go to the next slide, please? So Laurie and I are going to kind of bounce back and forth. We have broken this down into sort of a 10-step process. And so when we at Concept Companies as build-to-suit developers engage with the new customer or client, the first thing we want to do is really get to know you. And I'll go back to what I said a minute ago about being an outsourced real estate department. Is our approach, Concept's approach, is a concierge level service for our customers. And so we really want to be not really good partners, but a part of their team and an integral part of their growth strategy. And doing it that way, in my experience in the industry, which is 22, 23 years, has yielded the best results. So what does it mean to get to know each other? The first thing that's probably the most important is really understanding the targets of your growth, the timeline and the scale of what kind of growth you're trying to hit. Are you looking to add one new school in a market where you already have a presence, or are you looking to add 5 schools in one or more markets where you don't have a presence? All those things can really, if understood correctly up front, set both sides up for success as you grow. Another thing that we really seek to understand in that first step is what makes a good location for you and your school. What types of demographics are you looking for? What types of customers or clients do you best serve? What's your sweet spot? And you know that better than we do as a developer. We know the real estate side of things, and we can go find sites in your market that hit those criteria, but we really need you to tell us what those criteria are. The third item that we really like to do up front is really understand what your building looks like. If you have a prototypical building that we would be building for you, that's helpful. If we're building something or designing something from scratch, that's also possible, but it's very helpful to know that up front so that we can kind of calibrate the rest of the process around the resources that you guys have. The fourth thing that we do kind of in this get to know you phase is really understand kind of about your business and your experience in growth. So we do some financial underwriting where we understand kind of the fundamental strengths of your business. That helps us on kind of the financing side and the valuation side, which are both important pieces we'll talk about in a little while. Any lease terms that are specifically important to you, if you have experience leasing and there are key items that you need to incorporate in the lease agreement, it's good to know those at the initial. And then what experiences do you have, good or bad, with either new build construction or acquisition renovation construction as a means to expand. So, Laurie, you and I have done a lot of this together, and that getting to know you phase is definitely a dialogue back and forth. And maybe you could talk a bit about kind of how that has gone kind of as a hinge representative and being in those conversations with developers and with the schools.
Absolutely. As Seth mentioned, you know your business, your existing business better than we do. You know what things have made you successful in your immediate area. You should, be able to identify where your families are coming from. In the childcare business, we have many different types of, as Meredith said in the opening, we're going to have a panel this year at Shift that talks about the different types of businesses, whether you have a Montessori school, whether you're a traditional preschool, whether you're a language immersion school, whatever it is that you focus on, we want you to be able to focus on that. And we want to be able to focus on the development side of things. But we do need to understand what metrics you have figured out in your business that make you successful. So, knowing your area and knowing where you can expand to is crucial. As Seth also mentioned, the financial side of things, understanding what you can afford in rent on a go forward basis. But primarily it is identifying your criteria and what is important to you in order to make your business successful. Seth, it does look like we have a question there if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah, I saw that. Douglas, I've got Step number 6 is specifically about the lease. So I will make a note of your question and make sure to address that when we get to that slide, if that's okay.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Seth. So basically, the getting to know you is the most crucial part. This is where the relationship starts. This is where we learn everything we need to do in order to move forward. And I think that would probably take us to the next slide, Meredith, if you want to go ahead and change that for us. As Seth said in the beginning of the, when we first started, one of the things that concept companies will do is they will basically act as your outsource of real estate. They'll be your real estate person for outsourcing your real estate needs. The Hinge alignment there comes in the fact that we know preschool. And so being able to look at the metrics from a preschool standpoint makes this a very solid partnership, and it allows us to be able to take your priorities and take it to that next step. Seth, I'm going to throw that to you for just a second as I catch up on my notes.
Sure. So, focusing on priorities is really, at this point, we've had some conversations where we understand your business, you understand the build-to-suit process, and we have an alignment on kind of what we're looking for. This is when we start sourcing opportunities. And during that initial phase of sourcing opportunities, it's really helpful for both sides if there's a lot of collaboration and back and forth. We want to present opportunities and get feedback, understand what makes it really helps us further calibrate an understanding of what makes a good opportunity, so that once we get to the point where we have a site identified that we're both excited about, we can move forward with a lot of confidence and speed. And so really trying to get from what makes a site kind of a warm maybe to a firm yes. And really it's that next level of understanding and depth into, and a lot of it also has to do with sort of the cost side is what is the range that we're trying to hit from a cost side? What is the range we're trying to hit from a scheduling side as to when we can deliver a facility to you? And then are we in the right, are we sniffing in the right area for the right piece of real estate? And so that process of focusing on the priorities is taking that initial introduction, further refining it so that when we're ready to start a project, we know that that project has a very high likelihood of success.
Yes, and if you don't set out, I can add something here if you don't mind.
Sure.
Part of the focusing on priorities as well is your priorities. And so understanding, like I said, understanding where your families are coming from, but also understanding what income are you serving? A lot of, how many children in your immediate area do you need, or in the area that you're looking to develop? These are things that are already making you successful in the sites that you are. So particularly, we would want you to share that information with us.
Absolutely. Meredith, can you go to the next slide, please? So the next step would be what we call the grand tour. And that's when we go to the market that we're pursuing together to make sure that the sites that we've identified really check the box. And so this is, at this point, we've done a lot of back and forth. We've looked at sites together, maybe virtually using Zoom and maps and photographs and analysis. But now we actually get to go in the market and together and verify that the sites we've identified really do check the box. So I think of this as an opportunity to kind of challenge our assumptions that we've made up until that point, verify some conclusions that we may have made, and to really further recalibrate and dial in the recipe that we're pursuing to get it to be successful. During that tour, it's not unusual to look at 8 or 10 locations and then choose 2 or 3 to really lean into and pursue. And so we want to be discerning. We want to be committed. We want to visualize together kind of the finished product in this location. And is this a place where we want the school to be? Because after this grand tour phase, we really, as the outsourced real estate team, this is when we really lean in hard and start doing a lot of the technical work in the real estate business that is necessary to be successful in the end. So it's another opportunity. As you can see, kind of the first 3 steps in this process are really geared towards creating a good working partnership where there's a lot of clarity, clear and mutual expectations, and a shared vision as to what we're trying to accomplish. And after the tour, we should have a set number of sites relative to your targets that we're going to go pursue. Generally speaking, you probably want 2 or 3 options that are kind of given the thumbs up for each one option that actually gets to the finish line. I like to say that real estate deals are like snowflakes. They're all beautiful and unique and they melt easily. And so, there's always kind of, every deal is different and there's things that pop up. So you do want to have some options. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. And so that grand tour really gives you the opportunity to do that.
This is also the part that's really important, Seth. The boots on the ground together is important. So it solidifies that we heard you and vice versa. But one thing that's different in developing preschools than, a traditional, national brand type of business is that there's a lot of, for lack of a better phrase, feel good that goes into the right site for preschool. We can deliver, we can show you a site that meets every single metric that you've given us on paper. But if we get there and you feel like this isn't a place where families would feel comfortable leaving, dropping their children off, or if it's too difficult to get in and out of, or whatever the case may be, there is this feel-good category in preschool development that doesn't necessarily exist in some other businesses. A lot of other businesses just deal basic, just on the metrics. Here, it's very important for you to have boots on the ground with us so that you can feel it and know and see and compare that to what has already made you successful in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say too, our process, every developer does it differently. And so there's not a hard, fast, right or wrong way. But when we get an assignment, when we are kind of at that getting to know you phase and that setting priorities phase, our team will go to the market and they will be boots on the ground and they will, turn over a lot of stones and look at a lot of sites and bring those back to the team during that prioritization phase where we can really see what works. But this grand tour is when we go out there together. So at this point, your developer should have done a lot of groundwork, and that the stuff you're looking at on the tour, all of it can work from the fundamental standpoint. It maybe has zoning that allows a preschool, or we know that at least the building that you have will fit on the site. We have a general idea of ingress and egress, how you get in and out of the property, signage, visibility, and then obviously the demographic background. So the idea here is that we have together narrowed down a list of sites to a number that we really are interested in, and then we go take that list we're interested in and really prioritize our top tier and second tier pursuits, which would take us to the next step. Meredith, please.
And Seth, real quick, Harpreet, thank you for your question, has asked if we currently have clients in the San Francisco Bay Area. Currently, we are not developing there for preschool, but we'd be super excited to. We'd love to talk to you more about it.
So step 4, we call everything's under control. This is really where the technical real estate development expertise kind of ramps up and starts to be applied. So at this point, we have gotten to know each other. We have the basic kind of fundamentals of the business relationship nailed down. We know what we're pursuing and where we're pursuing it. We've been to the market together and we have decided on a few key sites to pursue. At that point, Concept Companies or your developer will start negotiating to purchase those properties. We will get those properties under control via a purchase and sale agreement, and we will do what we call our preliminary due diligence process. So during that process, we do a lot of things. We do a site plan with your building on it. We meet with all of the permitting agencies, which could include the local, county, or city government, the Department of Transportation, the State Department of Transportation, the Water Management District, any of the permitting agencies that are going to need to be involved in the site permit and building permit of your facility. We're going to meet with them and tell them what wanting to do and get their feedback. We also do, soils analysis, wetlands analysis, environmental analysis, traffic analysis, so that when we're done with that process, we can produce to you a reliable budget and a reliable schedule, and telling you that at this property, it's going to cost approximately X to build your facility, and we can deliver it over a defined period of time. Now, every municipality and every permitting agency is different, especially as you go from state to state. And so those timeframes can be quite wide. We've had some that we can get permits in hand as little as 90 to 120 days, and others where it can take over a year. And so that can be a big component to your growth strategy as to when you can get schools open. And so this is the time we really figure out those component pieces. At the end of this process, we put together a site investigation report, which is a detailed engineering report as to what it's going to take to develop the property. We provide a budget, and then we work with HINGE to put together kind of the background information, which we call the real estate committee package, which Laurie's going to talk about on the next slide.
There you go. So basically, just to pick up where Seth left off, we'll put together what we call a real estate committee package. It'll have all the things that Seth just mentioned. It'll have a timeline, a budget. It'll have a civil plan so that you can see exactly how the building lays out on that site. It'll show your playground, what the square footage that is that that you will have there. But in that package, we will also look in the market, and we'll find out who the local competitors are, and we'll basically secret shop those competitors and give you a comparative analysis of who your competitors are in the market, what their current rates are, if they're full. We will also provide you trade area maps that shows you where you are in that trade area as it relates to the trade area and the homes in the surrounding area. We will include, we like to include where the local public elementary schools are. For those of you who have after school programs and go to the local schools and pick up children for an after school program or have them brought to your schools, we use that as the metric of just ascertaining the children in the area, but also being able to give you, some idea of who's attending the schools in the surrounding. We do that in a 3-mile radius of the site. Along with that, as Seth said, there will be a budget that will include your lease rate. So you'll know exactly what it is that you'll be having to pay per month for this location. And basically anything that you need to know in order to make the decision going forward, if you think this is going to be a good financial decision for you, will be included in this, again, real estate committee package. Looks like we have another question. Let me look real quick. Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize. Someone said how many? Oh, that was Seth. Maybe I'm confused.
I think we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So Douglas, I'll talk about your question now on the lease side. After we get to that step 5, where we send the real estate package to you as the client and you make a decision to go or no go on the deal, we would then, assuming you say yes, we would move into the leasing phase. Now, for a new relationship, we're going to start negotiating that lease and crafting that lease kind of during step 1 and step 2, so that we can be on the same page about the business terms of the lease. And the lease rate is going to be directly tied to kind of the financial underwriting that we do. As a developer, we are traditionally what's called a merchant developer, meaning that we buy the real estate, we build the building, we sign the lease, we deliver the facility to you and hand you the keys. And then typically we would then sell the asset on the investment market. It's a big REIT market, publicly traded real estate investment trust market for preschool facilities. There's also a private market at which time we would sell the asset and then we would exit. So that asset is valued on kind of the quality of the lease and the quality of the tenant as their ability to pay the rate. And so it's important that through the underwriting and the lease negotiation, we're setting you guys up for success with an asset that you can afford and that works within your business model accurately, and then also an asset that has a market value, so that as the developer, we can be in a good position as well. Typically, the leases are at least 15 years of fixed term, and there are usually renewal options. And then to answer Douglas's question, yes, we routinely will have leases that give the tenant an option to purchase. That can be a fixed option at a pre-negotiated rate over a period of time. It can also be a right of first refusal or a right of first offer. There's a lot of ways to structure it. And I will say to anyone that's listening that is entering into a lease, please have a real estate attorney help you with the lease. They are much more complex than a purchase agreement for an existing building. Purchase agreement for an existing building or a piece of property typically only lasts for 6 to 12 months, depending on the timeframes. Whereas a lease is going to last for 15 years. It's going to impact your business for a very long time. And so you want to make sure that you hire a professional to help you, guide you through that. I would also say if you're working with a commercial real estate broker, they're great. I was in the brokerage business for close to 10 years and really liked that business. But you still need an attorney on the lease side, whether you're negotiating with a developer like myself or with a landlord, an existing landlord on the facility you want to occupy. So the lease phase is important because as a developer, we need to sign lease as a form of commitment from the client in order to really take the next steps, which are the steps at which point we start investing large amounts of money to get the project done. And so the lease is really structured from my standpoint as a developer as an assurance that I will recoup my investment in that asset over a period of time with a reasonable return. And for you, it is exclusive rights to occupy that facility that was built to your specifications for the time period in the lease. So it's a very important instrument for the entire relationship. And again, we typically start negotiating that kind of between, by the time we tour, we should have at least had some conversations about the basics of what the lease is going to look like. The last thing we want to do, the last thing you want to do is get to this phase, which we could be, 90 or 120 days into the relationship and not be on the same page on the level of investment and the cost and the rent associated with the project. So understanding that scope of work and those lease terms early is helpful, but coming out of the real estate committee approval into step 6 is when we would present a lease for signature and really get off to the races on the design and construction phase of the project. You can go to slide 7, Meredith. Thanks. All right, Laurie, I think you were going to take this one.
All right, guys. So collaborative by design. This is where, we are going to work with you to make sure that if you do have a prototype that we've understood and that we know exactly what it is that you need. This is also where we're going to work with the local municipalities. We're going to have to create a civil plan that will be approved. We have to design to make sure each municipality has a different set of codes. So we have to learn that and go in and make sure that we're building it as permitted in that area. This is where, we will also be able to give you updates. I would also point out here, Seth, that the normal process here, it can take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years from the time we start conversations to get something out of the ground. So in that time, we're going to have lots of conversations and be super collaborative. But particularly, we have to be collaborative with the folks that we're working with in the area. And so, when we go there, we have to know what it is that is permitted, when we show you the different locations. This can also affect price, depending on what we have to do on a site. The site work can be costly. For sure, anytime we can find a flat piece of land, that would be our preference. But being collaborative and being a team is very, very important, and it continues throughout this process.
I'll say, just kind of speaking on average terms over the last kind of 3 years, kind of as a time window, generally it's taking us between 180 and 270 days to go from a executed lease to a permit set in hand where we can start construction. And then generally it is another kind of 210 to 280 days of vertical construction to get the facility open. So, it's not a super fast process, but we do our best to quantify all those variables so that we know as early as possible what that schedule looks like. And so, again, every municipality is different. Every geography is different. If we're doing business in Arizona, we may have to do cactus mitigation for protected species. If we're doing business in Florida, we may have to do hurricane-resistant windows. So there's a lot of variables that go into the design, which affects the budget and the schedule. But we really seek to thoroughly vet all of those as early as possible so that there are no surprises. And we, I can't say with 100% effective on eliminating all surprises, but we certainly try to go in to check as many of those boxes as we can so that the construction portion of the project is as predictable as possible, and the permitting process as well.
I would add that we've even had to relocate gopher turtles.
Oh yeah.
So
Next slide,
it can be a number of things. So yes, next slide.
So the next two is our kind of us as the developer closing and buying the property, and then through that design and construction process to when we hand you the keys. There are periods in the lease where we will ask you, or your developer should ask you, to sign off on formally designs, construction plans, any changes to the budget or the schedule, so that can get ratified in the lease, so that those expectations are really clear and memorialized. But at this phase, we will be working with you along the way to help make sure that the things that you're going to bring to the building as the owner, whether it's playground equipment, interior, furniture, toys, classroom supplies, your local or state licensing process that you have to go through to get licensed as a facility, that those can be overlaid into the schedule. The way we like to structure it is that our construction teams are done. You've walked through the facility. We've corrected any items that need to, and we are out of the way, so you can move in and kind of have the facility all to yourself and not be bumping into the construction teams. So it's important that we collaborate on those milestones and make sure that they are on the schedule as early as possible, so that handoff is really as seamless as possible. The developer should be giving you warranties on building systems. They should be there for a period of time to help you if there are any construction issues that need to be resolved, which we like to call punch out or punch list items. And then we should be handing you a book that kind of is a how-to manual in the building, including electrical, HVAC, all of the facilities, all of the equipment, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, how they operate, and then how to service them regularly, so that really you've got a facility that you can use, and you can worry about it as little as possible and worry about operating your business as much as possible. Really kind of between step 7, which is the design phase, into step 8 and 9, that's when the developer will typically bring in some construction financing to build the facility. And so there's a time in the lease, we call it lease due diligence closeout, where the developer and the client agree sort of once and for all that we're moving forward with this project, at which point sort of the lease is not it cannot be terminated by either party. because of the dollars that are going to be invested into the facility. So again, make sure you have an attorney review the lease for you. It's a very important aspect of it to understand the long-term commitment you're getting into. But at the end of the day, as a developer, it's very, very fulfilling to go to a facility with a client and be able to say, hey, this is exactly what you had in mind, exactly what you designed, exactly what you visioned in the market that you were excited about. And we're really thrilled to hand you the keys and watch you be successful.
You can go to the next slide, Meredith. And at this point, you're open for business. So you now have another location open. You can add that to your group and we can start talking about the next location. And we would love to do that with you guys. Seth will be joining us again at our Shift conference. The Concept team will be there. So he and I would love to meet you guys in person there, but we would also like to connect with you before then. So if there is anyone that has questions for us right now, we're happy to answer. We've left about 10 minutes here for questions. But our emails are right here. Feel free to email us. And if you would like to schedule a sit down at the Shift conference, reach out about that as well. We love meeting folks and we love growing preschools. So let us know how we can help. And Seth, thank you so much. You always do an excellent job on this. And I appreciate your expertise in joining us today so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure to work with you and the entire HINGE team. And I look forward to seeing many of you in Charleston in, a few months.
Thank you.
Right,
any questions, guys?
I think Meredith says no questions. So
all right, I appreciate
reach
it.
out via email if you change your mind. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.